absolutely. Appreciate that, Mr. Jana. And yeah, before we go ahead and get started, I just want to say to everyone, we're gonna give it a few more minutes. Definitely appreciate everyone's time, but we're gonna give it a few more minutes as I know we'll have a few other people jump on as well. So if you haven't already done so, I would say just announce your name, where you're calling in from, and then also just send out a few quick texts for some of the other people to jump on so we can have a very clear presentation, well, training for tonight, right? So if you guys could just announce your name, where you're calling in from.
Carlton
Appreciate,
from Queens, New York.
yes, sir. Welcome to the call. Appreciate you, Mr. Jana. Thank you.
Sabrina, Houston, Texas.
Welcome, welcome, Sabrina.
I'm an artist, the DMV.
Welcome, welcome,
Eric Neal, the DMV.
welcome, welcome.
Hey, Ambrose, Atlanta, Georgia.
Welcome, Mr. Ambrose. Welcome to the call. So we will be getting started in just a few minutes. And as I can tell you guys, this is going to be a packed call with a lot of information on literally A to Z on creating a solar proposal. So if you ever booked an appointment before, this is going to be for you. If you've ever looked into, setting up a solar consultation, this is going to be for you. If you're wondering the behind the scenes of what the design looks like, why we choose a lease, why we choose a finance, how the commission plays out, this call is going to be for you. And we have some special guests to go over that with us. So definitely send the last few texts out to the rest of the team as we go ahead and get started. And we will be getting started literally in about 30 seconds or so. So if you haven't already done so, please announce your name, where you're calling in from.
Victor Bushrod, Washington, D.C.
Welcome, welcome.
How you doing, Ears?
How you doing, buddy?
Good, bro.
All right, all right. All right. Okay, at 7:05 on the dot, 5 minutes after, we're gonna go ahead and get this started.
Recording in progress.
Right. All right, so if you haven't already done so, please announce your name, where you're calling it from. We have
Derek, Houston, Texas.
welcome, welcome. Houston is in the building. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, my name is Idris Alaka, and we're going to jump into the specifics of, once again, how to prepare for a solar proposal, right? For a solar deal, for a solar consultation. And I have a few guests on the line who we actually have a deal coming up. And they're actually going to, they gave us the privilege of walking through a deal with them specifically. So we're going to bring them up shortly. But the reason why we chose to go through this training today is because it's been asked quite a bit from a lot of people in the company exactly how to put a proposal together, right? What's the mindset? What's the reasoning for this? What's the reasoning for that? How is the commission broken down? And unfortunately, right now, a lot of mentees have been kind of like in the dark of what exactly takes place, and how all of the behind the scenes work that actually goes into putting a deal in place. So you're going to get a chance to see that today. As we go ahead and get this show on the road. But I do want to just announce or bring up to the stage as well Tim and Erica Neal to the front. And once again, we'll kind of role play with them today, as far as the client that you already have, some of the information we spoke about before. And this is a deal that we're starting for you guys from scratch. So if you want, you guys can, jump in and please add in, but, who is the client? How did you get the client? Tell us the whole story, and then let's continue to go and role play from there.
Okay. All right, great. All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, thanks for being on the call tonight. Me and my wife, Erica, here.
We actually live in Puerto Rico. We moved here in June, so we're a little bit off the grid right now. And talking about the client that I have is my cousin. My background is a real estate agent, been real estate EXP for 12 years, and I actually sold her the house in 2020. Sold her the house, was her first house, first purchase. Young lady, probably in her maybe late 30s, maybe not late 30s, I'm sorry, late 20s, early 30s. I'm gonna think her and her husband, child. So very young family, bought their first house, and three-story, first house, a three-story house, about 3,000 square feet down in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I was reaching out, following up with my past clients like real estate agents do. How you guys doing? You know, how's the house going, all that. And I told them that now I've extended my business to solar, water filtration, and home security. And she texted me back and said, hey, listen, we good on the water filtration, we good on the home security, but our electric bill and gas bill has been high. Do you think you have anything for energy efficiency? I said, yeah, absolutely. Let me get a copy of your bill and we'll see if we can save you some money on the energy by going solar. So she said at that time, okay, great. I said, I just need you to snap a copy of the bill, send it over to me, and we'll get it going from there. So she did snap a picture, but as you well know, sometimes people don't send you exactly what you're looking for. So what I got was kind of a pie chart. I got another bar graph that talked about how much energy was used during the day, during the heat index of the day, and then what appliances. It broke it down. Her bill broke it down into, I guess it was an app or something. What appliances drew the most energy? I said, that's nice, that's beautiful, but that's kind of not what we're looking for, because I had never got a bill from this county, because they have different electric companies in these certain counties right around here. I've never seen a bill from Rappahannock. And so I wasn't sure what the bill looked like, because I was like, because she said, this is all I can get. And I'm thinking, it's got to be more than that, because we got to have at least a bar chart to figure out what's going on. So thank God my sister-in-law actually lived a couple of miles down the road. I reached out to my sister-in-law. I said, what's your bill look like? Send me a copy of it. So she sent it to me. I said, okay. So I texted to her and I said, this is what I'm looking for. Then she sent me the right thing, right? And so she did that, although she cut off the name and address. The good thing is, because I was a realtor, plus I'm her cousin, I know where the house is at. I got the address, and I had, of course, I know she's the owner. So even though maybe when you see this bill on here, you may not see those things, but normally when I put a bill in, I always try to make sure to get the full bill so you can see the address, who the electric company is, who are the owners, and then the bill. But this time I didn't, but I got enough information that I could give it to Mr. Locker. We can move forward. But so that's where we're at right now. And I put it in the portal with my wife here. Both of us are builders in the business. She's, I'm not saying she's under me. She's my business partner. But I figure if we do a deal and she gets the commission, I get $600 override or $200 override or 25-cent override. But I get an override and she'll get the lion's share. So that's how we rolling with this one.
Hey, sir, how you doing?
Awesome.
Doing good, doing good.
Okay.
And definitely appreciate you sharing that. And once again, I'm glad you did that, because
everybody, you got open hot mic, Ray?
No, it's good. I'm recording.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate that. So yeah, the reason why I'm glad you shared that is simply because literally this is the scenario that most people go through when they're adding the bill in, right? So sometimes when adding the bill, you may have issues with the bill and them trying to hide information and so on and so forth. It happens, it's okay. But more importantly, the goal is to communicate that to the mentor, right? So there's an understanding. Because if you didn't tell me that just now, I would have looked into the system and not known or understood what the situation was, right? So it's very clear to know that. And I want to start it off with that by saying, after you entered the lead in, you right after literally gave me a call. We talked and we discussed the deal. And you told me everything you just shared with everyone on the line. So that's the first important part of a solar consultation, is that communication, right? If you don't have that communication right now, let me also point out this as well. Tim was smart enough and aggressive, and I don't want to say aggressive, but definitely smart enough to call right? And have that communication with the mentor, right? So sometimes people add the lead in and then they're just waiting for, I guess, magic to happen, right? And if there's not a relationship, there's sometimes a mentor will call, right? I usually call the mentee if it's someone who I don't know. Actually, maybe I shouldn't have said smart enough. Maybe I didn't mean that way, but my point is that the communication takes place, right? Very huge and very important in the process. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, right? So as Tim mentioned, he put the information in and he put it in, under his wife's name. So that's here. And now all of the information is here. So when I'm looking at a deal, this is my process. The first thing is, and everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So the first thing is that I'm looking through the deal and I'm looking, I see the bill here, that's great. I'm looking at the location here, that's great. And I want to take a look at the notes, right? Now, this is very important as well. If you have the opportunity to put any additional notes, even if you communicate that with the mentor, it's always good to put those notes here as well, right? So this gives the mentor kind of like some context to work with and also to refer back to, right? Just in case I need to look back at the notes, one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to actually come to the deal and see it, right? So what I do, and this is a very important part as well, is every time there's an address put in, before I approve it, I take the address, right? And I want you guys to pay real close attention to this. I look at the address 4101, right? The address here, and I put it in Google Maps, right? So as I put that in Google Maps, I'm now looking at the house or trying to find the house here in Google Maps, right? So there's a few things I want to see. I want to see, obviously, is it the right address, right? So I put the address that was here in, and I'm now searching for this address, right? So I see 4100. That's not it, but I know it's close. So if this is the even side, the odd side should be on this side of the street. But look, I see 4103, right? This is not the address. I go here, 4105. This is also not the address either. So now there's a dilemma, right? I'm looking for the house. It's not on the side of the street, right? I'm looking at this house. This house has a different number. So what did I do? Instantly, I called Tim and I asked him, is this the correct address? Right? And as me and Tim spoke, Tim actually mentioned that the address is 4104. Now, this is a big deal, right? Because I want you guys to see. Sometimes the information that's loaded in is a little bit off, and that's okay. It happens as a mistake. But this is why I look at it here at Google Earth first, just to verify the address. Once again, Tim mentioned that it was 4104. So now that I see that it's 4104, it's this house here. Is this correct, Tim?
That's the correct house. Yes.
Awesome. Right. So now this is a house that's workable. We can work with this and we can make this happen. All right. So just also a quick note. Now, this is why the communication is important because once a mentee puts the information into the system, they can't go back in and edit it, right? So they can't edit it from their end. In order to re-edit it, they would need to resubmit the whole lead all over again, which is a little unnecessary, right? But now that I know the address and I know it's the right address, what we're going to do now is we're going to approve this. And we're going to see, if we can actually move this forward, right? So it got moved forward. It says log into the Freedom dashboard. Luckily, I'm already logged in. Right, perfect. And let's pull up the leads, right? Now, I just want to, let me refresh this and it should be at the top. All right, perfect. So now we have this address. And as you guys can see, it still has the wrong address here. So what I'm gonna do is actually click on this and address that immediately, right? So as you see, it has the wrong address. It shows no house, right? The target is actually in the middle of the road. Obviously, that's not something that we're working with. So let's change this now and just change the 4. Simple fix. Click. And now it actually clicks on the right proper house. So if this was wrong at all or in the middle of the street still, all I would need to do is drag this and drag it on top of the house and make sure that it's on the right proper house, right? What happened there? Let me click out of that. Give me 1 second. All right, so let's re-edit this again. This lead at this address already exists, no problem. Let's try this address. All right, perfect. All right. So now we can save this lead and we're now looking to move things forward, right? So does this look more like the house, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna move the deal forward. Let me copy this. And we're gonna create a proposal.
Okay.
Right. So once again, it's on the house, it's on the main house, we're good to go. And what I love here is that when it's on the house, when it's on the targeted house, when it's on the targeted house, the homeowner, right, the person who's on the title of the house, their name actually shows up to qualify that, right? So it's a name match here, so I know we're all good to go. And now I can click this because this is the name that shows up on the title of the house. So I can click this and we're now good to go. Now I'll go ahead and confirm it. All right. And now we're going to load and the whole deal is going to pop up. So we're kind of operating on good time here. And if anyone has any questions about the process, I would say just type it in. And we'll definitely be able to answer questions along the way, but just definitely type it into the chat and we'll be able to definitely get those questions answered as well. Now, just another thing I want to do, I didn't do earlier, is download the bill. I can now utilize it for later. We want to download this. And Tim, do you have a copy of the bill with you?
I have it.
You have access?
It's on my phone.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you to just help me out with this, but I want everyone to see this before I get rid of this. So this bill makes it extremely easy, right? It has the number, it has the usage, the kilowatt usage on the top of each bar. So all we need to do is just take the usage and plug it into the system, right? And this is what Tim is literally about to read off to me in a second as I'll show you guys, right? But once again, this bill makes it simple. Every bill is not like this. It's a little more complicated, but this is a great example. So that is good to have. All right. Okay, let's go back to the proposal. All right, and everyone's still with me, right? Perfect. So with this proposal here, all we need to do is plug in the rates or those kilowatt hours that you just seen on the bill.
Okay.
So Tim, if you have, is it possible to tell me what you have there for January?
Okay. Okay. January is, let me see. And that's this past January, right? Correct?
Whichever January is higher. If
Okay.
this,
Because what I did, the bill goes from March to March.
okay, so there's only one January on there?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So what is
Okay.
it?
Okay. 3980.
3980. Okay. And February?
4216.
4216. Okay. March.
Okay. 2011. That's right now.
Okay, April.
Well, let me see. Okay, my wife corrected me. 22/11. March was 22/11. I'm sorry. And we
No,
still in March, so that's this month. Okay.
that's this month or last month's March?
No, this month. Because the bill I got is from from March to March.
Okay, all good. So it has two Marches, right?
Yes.
Okay, is this the higher March or the lower March?
This is the high. This is 2025. The last
Okay.
March we just did was 2025. Now when I go back to 2024, I got starting at April of 2024.
Okay. Yep. So what's April? What's April's number?
Okay, April is 2848.
You said 2848?
Yes.
Okay.
May is 686.
686. Okay.
June is one.
1,114.
Yeah. Trying to say that. All right, got
Okay.
it.
July.
July is 1968.
Okay. August.
August is 2613.
2613.
September is 2392.
Okay.
October is 1573.
Okay.
November is 2385.
85. Okay.
December is 4051.
4051. All right, perfect. So now we have all of the usage in for the entire year. And just to go back and reiterate why I asked for the highest out of the two Marches, right? So the goal here is to basically anticipate that the electricity usage may go up. So we would rather have the higher number than the lower number. If they're
Okay.
showing both, it's best just to choose the higher number. Obviously, it'll be a slightly bigger system. Or it'll generate more power, but it'll be slightly a bigger system, and chances are that's probably going to work in their favor. So now that we have all 12 months, as you guys can all see, right? I see here the usage, right? So the usage is 30,000 kilowatt hours basically for the year. Now, to me, this is a little bit higher than normal, right? However, everyone uses their electricity in their house how they choose to use it, right? So some people are more conservative, and then some people are more aggressive with their electric usage. So that's a question that I usually ask in a consultation, but then also how many people live in the house, so on and so forth. So once again, now we have all 12 months, so now it's in. Our system here with Aurora Solar, that's the system that puts the whole proposal together. It literally allows us to go from slide to slide, right? So first is the usage. Secondly is the design, right? If you guys see at the top. So now that we have the usage in, now we're going to go to the design, right? And it's a simple tap. So now that we tapped on the design stage, right? Now, this is something that we have. It's an AI. As you can see, it says run Aurora AI roof. So when we tap this, literally, you're going to see what it does in a second. But some roofs don't allow you, or it doesn't allow the AI to actually do the roof. This is a pretty simple roof, so it should, but some roofs don't. So then you would have to request an expert model. And for some people, as you may or may not know, this is why sometimes it's not always easy to do a consultation kind of last second, right? Because sometimes we may have to request an expert model, and as you can see, it can take 3 minutes, also take 3 hours, right? Depending on the difficulty of the design. So hopefully this is not one of those situations, but so we click here again, and we're gonna click on Run Aurora AI Roof, and you're gonna see what the AI does. So let's see how that plays out. right? And basically the system is right now thinking, right? AI is doing that thing. So it's made a pretty good model of all of the different roof planes on the roof, which is great, right? This seems pretty accurate to me. So we could either delete it or we can keep it. Once again, this seems pretty accurate, so we'll keep this, right? So now that we have the framework of where the design and the roof planes are and the angles and so on and so forth. And just so you guys can see what I mean by angles, obviously the roof is in different angles. So the AI already arranged all of that and knows the angle of where this roof faces. So all of this changes how much each solar panel is going to generate as far as electricity, right? And as you can see, there's quite a bit of space to put. Now, the only one thing sometimes that the AI does that's not always accurate, and if you see these dots here, they're vents, right? You know, they represent vents. But if you see on this roof, actually, yeah, it's about the same. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes it puts a dot here and it's not a vent. It might be a shadow. It might be a bird sitting on a roof, right? Block that space out. So this is just something, as this is a preliminary design, it's not 100% accurate. It's a preliminary design until we actually have the site survey. So now that we have this model, right, we're going to go and select a panel. Now, right now, the standard panel, you see a lot of panels here, but the standard panel are the JR Solar 405s. Now, they have other panels here. I'm not 100% sure why, but this is the standard, all right? So we'll use the standard. We'll click on that.
Hey, Mr. Locker,
Yes, sir.
question. So I know they always talk about Q cell or something panel. Are all of them Q cell, and what does Q cell mean?
So QCell is the actual brand of the panel, and and this is another thing that happens on the back end all of the time, right? So the panels that are available to sell are based on supply and demand. They're also based on market. So they change constantly all throughout the year. They may change about 6 times a year, right? So as they change, maybe even more, maybe 8 times a year. But as they change, obviously the mentors get notified and it allows us to know which panel to pick, right? So the ones that are available now for this market are the JA Solar, right? The Q cells are here. But once again, that's just the brand of the panel,
The brand.
right?
How about price point for? Is there a difference between the panels? Are they pretty much the same? Or some of them have different wattages, so it's one will
Yep.
cost a lot more, significantly more. Is it slightly different in pricing?
So yes, it is different in pricing, but I think as of late, it's just based on availability, right? So sometimes there are pricing differences, right? Uh, but right now, and I'm looking at the adder sheet as Tim is asking that question, and I would say about 95% of all of the states that we're in right now are asking us to use the 405s. Right? So the other panels aren't even accessible for this market, which means that if we wanted to use a 415, right, we would click it, but we wouldn't be able to close the deal, right? So we have to use the 405 for this market right now, right? So we'll select this one here, right? Select it, and it says
I have
Orient.
a question, Mr. Locke. This is Crystal. So have you experienced in your years that have you experienced where you have a customer who is very knowledgeable about the different panels and they might request something that we don't offer?
Really, really. All right. That has happened, I would say maybe once or twice in my career, maybe 3 times maybe, but yeah, really. Most people aren't, overly familiar with the different panels. But yeah, it does happen from time to time, but it's very rare that that takes place.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So yeah, once we have that, now the orientation is going to depend, as you can see, they can have it horizontal or vertically. Right? So I always choose auto. because it's gonna put it in the best way for based on the space and then also based on the roof, right? And then it asks, do we want to add a filler row? So yes, auto, always want to add a filler row because the goal is to put as many panels on the roof first to see maximize out on all of the space and then see where we need to eliminate from there, right? So we have auto orientation, we have auto on filler row, and now let's put place. All right, so once again, AI is doing its thing. It's thinking, it's figuring, out where to put the panels, and you'll see where they get placed in a moment. Okay. So we have this going, placing panels. Awesome. So now all of the panels are placed on the roof, right? And this is a good deal. All right. Now the first thing I take a look at when the panels are placed is not necessarily the placement of the panels, but I'm looking for the offset. And unfortunately, it doesn't show the offset here yet. And I'm curious of why, right? So let's recalculate this so it can actually calculate. Okay. So just so everyone knows, there's no yellow lines when the panels are installed. This is just showing where the current from each panel to each roof plane of the house is going, where it's starting from and where it's going to.
Okay.
Right. Let me zoom in so everyone can see. I'm just waiting for this to update. Perfect. So now that we have all of this updated, right? And you guys can see here that we're at 83%. So we're at 83% offset. Now, right? Obviously, this is where I would maybe ask Tim, or we would have a conversation. Once I see this and I know this, I would ask Tim, well, what's the goal, of the homeowner? What are they looking forward to? And let me explain why, right? So we have a lot of panels here on the north facing side, right? So north is up, south is down, right? East and west, right? So the south facing side is the best place to put the panels,
Mhm.
right? That's the best place. The north is the least effective place on the roof, right? However, that's the only amount of space that we have for this house.
Mhm.
So we can do two things, and I'll ask Tim. Usually I'll ask the mentor or the mentee, I should say. But do you know if there's a preference of placement of panels? Right, that's the first question. And then, what's the biggest goal, and what's this homeowner ideally trying to achieve as they go solar?
Lower,
Now, Tim. Yep.
lower the energy costs because, as she mentioned to me, she says, "Hey, you know, her bill is high, and lowering the gas and electric. We can't do anything about the gas, but the electric bill, she wants a lower bill per month. That's her biggest goal. And being that they probably only bought the house like 4 years ago, I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. So um, I think that's the biggest thing, not having that high bill every month.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Right. So now knowing that and understanding that, okay, perfect. So it might be advantageous for us to possibly put the panels on the front end of the house as well. Now, just so everyone knows and everyone's clear, the north facing side of the roof is the least efficient. However, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't put any panels on the north facing side of the roof, right? That's just the last place to put them if I had to. In this situation, it might be best to put panels on the north side because obviously we're trying to cover as much of the electricity usage as possible for this client. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on that from the design perspective?
So how many panels? Is it a count that shows how many panels that is besides just
Yep.
look?
So it is a total of 65 panels. And yep.
Is that for a house that size, is that normal for to have those many panels that have that much offset, or they just using a lot of electricity for a house that size?
Yep. So as I showed earlier, they're just using a lot of electricity for a house this size, right? Typically, right? So for their house, they're using a lot of electricity. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It just is how they use electricity in their house, right? So I never want to make a homeowner feel bad, like, oh, you're using so much. Once again, they're comfortable in their house. It's not my job to judge, how they use their electricity. It's to help them out with a solar system. Yes, Rod, I see you at, oh, I'm sorry. Was there another?
Yes, sir. Do you ever play around with the ones on the north side, like start to remove them, just to see the impact it makes? Like, is it worth removing some for the savings because they're not really operating in a full 100% efficiency because they're on the north? Do you ever kind of play with like taking some away and see what happens?
Absolutely. And we definitely can, and I'll do that so we can see it. I was thinking that earlier, but if we remove these, we're probably going to be around, let's say 65, maybe about 50% offset, right? So obviously that makes a big difference, but that's a great question. It'll make a big difference as far as offset, but it'll also make a big difference as far as price.
Right.
Right? And also, right, I know most homeowners don't necessarily want to see the panels in the front of their house. So I always try to not necessarily put it on the front if we have to. However, in this situation, because of the amount of electricity that they use, we need as many panels as we can get, right? So, but let me take those off so we can see the difference. So right now we're at 83%. And let's just see the difference if there were no panels on the north facing side specifically. So this roof here is facing west and east. So we can leave these here. But we took out all of the specific north facing side panels. Let's see what the difference looks like. And Tim, based on your understanding, do you think they would have a problem with having panels on the front, or just based on your knowledge of them
I
or
don't
of your
think
cousin?
good. I think they care more about the savings.
Savings?
Um, I would run both scenarios just because sometimes you think you know somebody, but you don't know. Because I have a cousin out in Maryland. They got a high electric bill too, but the wife, she don't want no panels on the front of the house. She said that's her main sticking point. She don't care that it don't, you know. And I thought, hey, you saving electric, but her thing is, I don't like the way it looks on the front of the house. So
Absolutely. So perfect. So yeah, I'll do two scenarios, one with and one without, right? And let me just take these two off just from an aesthetic standpoint, if they don't want any panels on the front, and just have them located here on the back. So this is going to be roughly about 50% offset, which is still good, right? Still a good situation either way. And by the way, right, and I'm glad I'm talking about this because as I'm putting this together, this now, based on this scenario, would be a question that I would ask in the discovery when we're doing the first part of the consultation, right? So I would ask them in addition to, how long you looked into solar, so on and so forth. In that discovery phase, I would ask them if there was an issue, or if they ever thought about having panels on the back or the front or whatever the case may be, right? Just so I could kind of know how to present it later on. Okay, so once again, 54%. So this is what it is on the back. And so let me actually do what it is with all of the panels lit up first,
okay.
and then we'll come back and change it afterwards. All right, but obviously we see as a 30% difference. All right, so there is definitely a difference. Now, once we have the design, and once again, it's going to go back to 80, is it 83, 84%. So we'll have that down pat. And that's, that's good. Right. So I don't usually add the battery into the proposal up front. But because that's something I want to speak to the homeowner about first to see if it's something that they actually, need. Do they experience blackouts? Is that something that they want, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Obviously, and I'll show you guys this in a second, but the battery obviously changes the price overall. Not a bad thing if the homeowner needs it. However, it could kind of scare people off if that's not what they were looking for. So now that we're here, and we're at the money part. So was the net price per watt. So every job starts at 4.5. Now this is high, right? But this is where you would need to double check to see what market this is in and figure out what are the numbers for this specific market. So let me actually pull that up. Once again, 4.5. This is a deal in Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at Virginia, right? And we're looking at here we go. Virginia's here, right? So we're looking at the baselines that we have available for Virginia. So let me also point this out. As you guys can see, Sonova, this is a lease option, and this is also a lease option, as you can see, and this is also a lease option. Now, these lease options are much higher than the finance and the cash option. However, it might be the better situation for the homeowner, right? I don't know yet, but it's just pointing that out. But the best option basically looks like it would either be a finance or cash, right? Because we have the best baselines for that situation. Don't want to confuse anyone with that, but this is the baseline that I'm targeting right here, right? So this is 1.64. So as I go back to the proposal, all right, this is where I like to start off at. All
Hey,
right, basic.
Mr.
Yes,
Locker,
sir.
with the leasing, because they had a higher baseline, will that make their payment more per month, even though they don't own the system?
Possibly, possibly. Right, we'll have to take a look at the leasing numbers, and I'll pull them up in a second
Okay.
as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, typically where I like to start off as far as numbers wise is basically $1 higher than whatever the baseline is, right? Now, this is the easy way to understand this. $1 higher, right, than whatever the baseline is just means that it may be a dollar is basically 1,000. So 1,000 times the overall size of the system, right? And we're looking at roughly 26,000, right? So that would be ideally the commission on that. And let me just double check this. Let me just double check that, right? So here's how I do to double check that. Hold on, system cost. Okay, hold on. Let me just choose something real quick. And I'm only choosing this for an example purposes real quick. Slide this over. Okay. We're just gonna go with any finance option just for the moment, just so we can get a price. Okay, okay. So while I'm doing that, typically the bigger the overall price is, right? Or the bigger the system is, as we can see here, 26, the lower you can make the net the price per watt amount, right? So if this is 20,000 ideally commission system, then once again, it may not need to be that high. And I'll show you why in a second. Right. So let me just show the commissional side. And once again, there's going to be a lot of bouncing back and forth. So I know that this might get a little dizzy, but it's just a lot of bouncing back and forth. So this is our commission calculator. So I just need to see net price that we had was 264. The state was 164. Right, 164. System size was, what was the system size? It was a 26,325. 26,325. 26, 3. So as I mentioned, right on the money here, it's about $1,000, right, per watt. But then there's, all of the fees that come out, so on and so forth. And now this is what the total commission on this job, right? So this is what will be split 50-50, right?